Welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. This is Michael, and I'm not sure what happened to Michelle. Jeannie and I are actually driving down the road, heading out of Kansas City back to Theodosia, and Michelle is on the switchboard, I hope, and going to be with us momentarily. But in the meantime, we're honored and delighted that you're here to be with us and joining us to engage in this deep inquiry into first century Aramaic forgiveness and all of the corollary tools that we have been decoding from the first century Aramaic language. There are so many principles that are outlined in the Aramaic that go back 2,000 years ago, and they're principles that have by and large been lost in the culture. Sadly, they were turned into ideas that for some reason somebody twisted it so they had something to do with religion rather than the operation of the mind, the body, and life. But in truth, those principles that were elucidated were simply about, here's how your instrument, your device works. You know, if I get behind the wheel of a car and I have no idea what the steering wheel's for, I might end up on the dash, operating the steering wheel, looking out the back window, and I'll wonder why I crash. Well, when we don't understand how the mind works, the basic principles by which the mind works, the basic laws by which the mind works, then there's going to be difficulty in getting it to operate properly. For instance, when you recognize that perception, literally the world that you see, is a construct created by your mind. And this can be verified in all sorts of ways. It's not what's taught in the culture, but you can even go to the CIA's website and they precisely tell you. This is after millions spent in researching perception. Quote, the mind does not record reality, the mind generates reality. Your perceptual reality is unique and individual to you. It is your own. It belongs to no one else. And its quality determines the quality of the guidance system that you have in your life. Now, if, let's say you had a GPS system, and your GPS system was right half of the time. Half of the time it sent you in an incorrect direction. How long would you use that GPS system for? And or if you had the opportunity to do an upgrade, an update on it so that it worked properly, how long would it take you to upgrade to a proper operating system? Wouldn't take you long. You'd be saving yourself a whole lot of time and money and energy if you were able to operate that device properly. Well, if you're happy with your mind operating correctly about 50% of the time, then and you live in the standard mindset of this culture, then you're missing out on a whole level of understanding, guidance, and possibility that the mind that's generated or the mind that's structured by this culture simply does not have. The basic principle that I'm getting at here is that perception is impacted by the filters that are operative within it. And if hostility or fear in any way, shape, or form, if you look at your child and hostility is there, have you ever done something you regret? Have you ever followed guidance that was so far off base that afterwards you sat in tears thinking about the way you'd spoken to your child or your spouse or your parent, or even to yourself in the mirror? The reason is because when hostility or fear is active, it degrades the quality of the perceptual guidance system that is yours uniquely and individually. If we go back to the first century in the Aramaic language, we hear this man named Yeshua, and they ask him, if you want to be a human, what comes first? What of all this stuff you're teaching us, what's most important? And he says, the first thing you must have is a condition called Rachma in your mind. Now, the Greeks degraded that teaching by saying you had to love your neighbor and the Creator as yourself. And There is no such concept in the Aramaic words of Yeshua in response to that question. In Aramaic, he says, this is the long form of the answer. There is a filter called Brachma in the frontal lobes of your brain that when active, all of your intentions will be based in love. And intentions being the raw material of goals, your goals will be based in love. If your goals are based in love, then perception will flow through a filter called Kuba in the back of the brain, and all of your guidance will be loving. In other words, you couldn't say a hostile or fearful word to your child, your spouse, your parent, if that filter's set. He says that's the first order of business for a human being. And if you don't have that, you don't function as a human being. So if you're happy to have your mind, functioning at 50% speed, and you live in a world, as many do in this culture, of hostility and fear, then just be aware that your guidance system is off in a totally incorrect direction at least 50% of your life, at least 50% of the time. And that makes for crazy time. And what we're looking to do with this work is to bring people back from crazy time and get back into alignment with who we are as human beings and to function truly as we are designed to. Now, if you need to determine how you're designed to function, I suggest that you let yourself go back to the first moment when you held a newborn child. And if you describe the essence of the newborn child, here's what I know, you will describe the newborn child with a word that represents love. Because that's what the newborn is. That's what human life is. That's what you are. And if your mind, the device that you have to create perception, to create a guidance system for you, does not have Rachma active, then your human life is not active within your structure. If you hold a newborn child and you describe that newborn child as love, you'll notice that the newborn child is not loving you. You'll notice that the newborn child is love. Recognize that love is a state of being. It's not something we do to each other. But again, the language has been degraded by the Greeks, and we've been taught that love is something we do to each other. Well, I just want you to love me. Well, it's a big mistake to ask somebody to do that because it's not possible. Love is what we are. It's not what we do. It's who we are. Vladimir Lenin says, if you want to destroy a culture, change the meaning of its words. The meaning of that single word being changed, love, from a state of being, from your human life, to something you do to each other or something you want somebody to do to you, leaves you in great difficulty. What we're looking to do is to restore people to the highest and best possibility of living a human life, of living as the active presence of love. And when we do that, then the whole game of life changes. Everything is different. And we're looking to support you to live in a world that is totally and completely and truly based in the active presence of love. And so here we are, on go, all things moving forward. And let's check and see if Michelle is with us. Michelle, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, good. How are you, young lady?
I'm being challenged, and I'm getting support for that. I went to my Course in Miracles support group this morning, study group, how you have it, and got some clarity. Actually, there's 3 people with a hand up, but I'm not sure how you want to move forward here.
Well, let's start with you. Do you have anything to share with us? You said you were being challenged. Any way we can support you?
Well, the work definitely supports me. It's the whole idea of resetting and resetting that becomes a challenge. It was interesting to me because I walked into my Course in Miracle room, and the woman was reading out loud, and as I was walking in, and she was saying, the importance of respecting people's right to make the wrong choice is that only they have the power to make the right one. If you remove their power by denying the mind's ability to choose wrongly, you also make it impossible for them to choose correctly. And that was just channeled for me, because my upset is directly related to how my husband is generating me. Like you mentioned in the first opening moments here, his distorted view, I believe, is generating me in a way that's inaccurate and not true. And it brings up a lot.
So do you notice? Yeah. So do you notice that the denial that's in your statement?
I'm sure you're going to point it out to me, I guess.
Well, I mean, if you're up for that coaching, I certainly would be happy to.
I'm willing.
Oh, good. So notice that your upset and your disturbance is not related in any way, shape, or form to what your husband's doing. It's related to the contents of your mind. And remember our definition of denial. When I think or speak as though something outside of me is the cause of something inside of me, then I have to dissociate with the disturbance that's inside of me. And when I dissociate from that disturbance, it's not mine to change anymore. It's not repairable. I've denied myself access to it. Certainly, I'm not familiar with what's going on, but whatever your husband's doing may be the trigger or the resonance. And, you've heard me say this to people before. Maybe he's a totally, completely, fully realized spiritual being that's here to show you your next level of healing, the next level of your own work to do. But I guarantee you that it is not directly related to what he's doing. I guarantee you it's directly related to the contents of your own mind. And until you can see that and end the conversation that instructs your mind to keep showing you that it's about him, then the part of you that's in disturbance and pain will remain unchangeable. And you'll be in a self-fulfilling prophecy of, well, as long as he doesn't change, then I can't feel better. And you're going to be stuck in that. The minute you can switch the language, take a breath for a second. The minute you can switch the language to, my husband's making some choices that to me appear to be off base, and that's really bringing up a lot of whatever it's bringing up, then you've given your mind permission to start to show you directly the part of you that needs to be healed, rather than taking that part of you and putting it into your brain's image of your husband and pretending it's about him, because it's not.
Okay. Is there a halfway point? Because I know
not 1%. Not 1%.
What? Well,
not 1%.
I'm taking responsibility that it's my feeling and my upset, and I'm doing my mind shifters and I'm doing my breathing work, and I've been juicing all those leftovers, and so
cool. Awesome.
Part of me gets excited that wow, I'm really pulling the lid off this, because my life is being turned inside out, from my business to my marriage, everything.
Yeah, I hear you. Why don't you breathe into what you're feeling right now? Why don't you breathe into what you're feeling right now? Just breathe for a minute. Yeah. Let yourself just breathe into it. Let go of the conversation for a minute. Just breathe into it and let yourself feel that fully. And let us be with you to support you in it. So here's what I've observed over the years, is people will say, well, there's a lot up for me right now, and I know that it's mine, but then Charlie did this and this and this, and that really made me, and my pain is directly related to what Charlie did. On one hand, and this is what Yeshua 2,000 years ago would have said, this is a house divided against itself, because I'm saying that it's mine, but then I go on and explain my denial and how somebody else did it to me. You can't have it both ways. And no, there's not 1% room for anything that's going on inside of you being his fault. He's responsible for his behavior. And again, I don't know what his behavior is, but whatever it is, holding him accountable for that will be really important. But there's no sense trying to hold him accountable until you go in and resolve that sadness, that grief, that pain inside of you. And And here's the way you can verify it for yourself. How long have you been married?
11 years.
11 years. So I'm going to ask you to go back in your memory bank to the year 2000, 17 years ago.
Okay.
Before you ever laid eyes on him or knew he existed.
Uh-huh.
Tap in now to the sadness and pain that you've been feeling, that you're going through. Did you know that quality of sadness and pain in 2000?
Michael, when I saw the movie The Light Between the Ocean over the weekend and had all the support of the women, I could see all the parallels between my mother when I was 1, let's say, and now. That I draw in people who don't support me, who don't love me in the way that I want, who really don't pay attention to me, dismiss me, discard me. I've been feeling that since birth.
That's big. Yeah. Okay. So then now we've established it's not about your husband.
I know, but when you say about how, like, well, you can't have a conversation about being responsible until you clear this stuff, I mean, I've been working on clearing this stuff since, the first therapist when I was, let's say, 20 years old into,
but here's the problem.
What's the problem?
Yeah. Here's the problem, Michelle. I could work on that for the next 100 years with the best therapist in the world. But as long as my conversation continues that I'm really upset because of what he did, I am cut off from the part of my mind that needs to be healed. With the best therapist in the world, I might create all kinds of cool rationalizations and be able to feel better about it. But I'm never going to get rid of that load of garbage until I can directly confront it. Because as long as my conversation it's directly related to what he did, now I take that part of my mind that I've been dealing with since birth. Probably if you went back and interviewed mom and dad, you'd find one or both of them had the same issues and never worked through them. If you went back the generation before that and before that and before that, it was probably hanging around then. But I can't change the part of my mind that I have no access to.
Michael, I've been doing more work.
Yes.
It is a therapist work. I'm just saying, like, as far as, there's layers. And even to be ready for your work, maybe I had to do therapist work. But I'm beyond that now.
Absolutely.
And I've been doing Mind Shifter support group and staying in the conversation. I don't know, like, as far as, if it takes 100 years, I know there's nothing else to do but keep doing it. And that's why that lesson is from a song of prayer.
Right.
I think it's called, that last little booklet, and it's good stuff about healing.
Yeah. So Michelle, you can do my work for the next 100 years, but if you keep the conversation going, remember, perception follows the directions given to it by your words. And if I have a computer, and let's say I put a really important password, I've got a bank account with $1 million in it, and I know where the bank is. I have the address of the bank. I know exactly where the safety deposit box is that I put the $1 million in cash in. And the password is locked away in my computer. And I've forgotten the password to the file that will tell me how to get into that box. It doesn't matter what I do. I can't have the $1 million until I unlock that part of my mind, of the computer, until I get to the code word. Until I have that code word, I can't get into the safety deposit box. The code word for getting into this part of your mind that you say that you're still saying it's directly related to him is responsibility. And it's not directly related to him. You just said it. I've been dealing with it all my life. And it's like one of those major core issues. When they talk to Yeshua, he'd say, this is one of your 77 times 70 worksheet issues. You're going to just keep moving through these layers. And until you can end the conversation that instructs your mind to show you that this is his being caused by him, then your mind will use that hidden information to produce your brain's image of him, and your problem will show up and your mind will convince you that it's about him, but that's a lie. Because if it was about him, he'd be the one who would be feeling it. You're the one who's feeling it. So I can use the tools. I can talk about it. I can be in a support group forever. I can do 1,000 intensives. But in every issue where I turn around and say, and boy, they really made me, that part of my mind isn't mine to change. It's in the safety deposit box, and I don't have the password. So I'm just going to invite you to start to work with a slightly different conversation. It doesn't take a big shift in words, but to recognize, wow, I really have been working on this all of my life, and probably my generations have too. And there's a part of my mind that wants to put it on whoever's in my face today. You know, in 2000, you put it on who was ever in your face then. And in 1995, you put it on whoever was in your face then. And when you were 3 years old, you put it on mom who was in your face then. And I'll tell you that it isn't about any of them. It's about you. It's your content. And when you can own, and I'm saying this from my own personal experience, you know, you've heard me say just the last year or so, and it's been a key for me to break through is when, you know, when my jaw wants to clench, when my fist wants to tighten, I just stop and remind myself, Michael, and my mind wants to tell me a story about how they did it to me. That's where I stop and I just say, Michael, this is about you. Michael, this is yours. You're clenching your fist because of what's going on inside of you. You're grinding your teeth, not because of what they're doing, but because of what's going on inside of you. Michael, remember, this is about you. And then I can start to open that hidden part of my mind. But as long as I keep the insane conversation going about somebody else being the problem, I cannot access that hidden part of my mind. And when you access it, the intensity is probably going to go up 10 times over what you've been experiencing so far. And it sounds like life, you know, it sounds like you've put out the invitation, said, life, I'm ready to rock through this. I'm ready to do it. And here's your opportunity in spades. And I identify with it. Been there, done that, and it's intense.
Yeah,
and
well.
So we're here to hold the space and melt that intensity off from your genes and free you from it. So that you could walk into your husband's space and he's doing every behavior that he's been doing in spades, in fact, doing it twice as much and twice as intensely, that you could walk into his space and you could keep your human life presence in your body and mind whatever he's doing. Because what he's doing is about him. That's his pain. That's his turmoil. That's his trauma. What you're doing is about you. That's your pain. That's your turmoil. That's your trauma. When you try to make yours about him and he tries to make his about you, you both end the healing possibilities. This might be a good time to sit down and watch the Healing Through Relationships workshop again and the Codependence to Interdependence workshop again. And do it with the mindset toward every time that your structure wants to tighten, every time an emotion comes forward, to just say to yourself, and this is about me. This is about me. And you might have to do that 100 times a minute. You might have to restore love to your mind 100 times a minute when you get down to some of these core issues.
Okay, Michael. I hear what you're saying, and actually I agree with it. I think that my language doesn't reflect that as people realize. But talk about mixing the garbage, and
can you get a little closer to the microphone? I'm missing every third word.
Okay, I mean I'm
Repeat that last couple.
There's some background noise, I think.
Okay.
I I know about matching bags of garbage, and my invitation has been to heal this together because, when you look at results, he has his own journey, right, his own pains, and so wanting to do it with him consciously as a partnership, because obviously we're together pushing 15 years. There's something there.
So here's my input. The next goal you want to cancel, the next worksheet you want to do is cancel your need to do it together. Because here's what happens. If I'm a house divided against myself, in my head I say, I want us to do this together. But in my heart, and if you listen to the words that you spoke, that all your life you've been dealing with this issue, people are never there for you, they never love you the way that you want. So with your head, you're sending out an invitation. Hey, sweetheart, I want you to do this work with me. With your heart, you're sending out a high energy, high amplitude wave with 1,000 experiences of pain behind it to intensify it. And that message says, nobody, including you, can ever be here for me in the right way. And that's the way it is. So, buddy, I don't care what you do, it's not going to happen. And guess which message he's going to tend to respond to? He's going to respond to the high-intensity message. And so I cancel my goal for him to do anything around doing it with you, and do your work. And what will tend to happen is, as you let go of the part of you that says nobody could ever love me the way I want to be loved, everybody always rejects me, when I can embrace that and bring that out of the safety deposit box and expose it to love and dissolve it, here's what's probably going to happen. He's going to wake up one morning and go, honey, I realize I've been resisting doing my work around this whole issue that we've had going on, and I'm ready to go for it. But you know something? Chances are it's not going to be possible until he's free of the influence, the unconscious influence of the message that says, but nobody could be here the right way for me.
Okay, well, or that third thing, or the fourth thing where, there's no more resonance and then it just blows up. When you're talking about the four things that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady,
so when it blows up, I do one of two things. I either buy into the blow up or I live as a human being. And if I live as a human being, then I walk through the blow up. Whether he stays or he goes, I walk through the blow up and I maintain the presence of love in me. I live through that whole experience as a human being. But as long as I have all of these unresolved, denied, and dissociated rages and guilts and griefs and fears and abandonments, then those are the energies that I am spraying out on him. So don't be too quick to decide what he's going to do. Choose what you're going to do and do your work. And it might shock you, the turnaround that you see happen. Jeannie and I did a Healing Through Relationships workshop down in Fort Lauderdale back about, maybe 4 years ago now. And there was a guy there who, he came up after the workshop, was talking to Jeannie and said, well, I get one of these commitments, but it wouldn't make any sense because we're already talking divorce and there's so much water under the bridge. We could never resolve it. It'll never change. And Jeannie said, well, here, why don't you take a copy of the commitment and read it to her? And he's like, it's too late for that. We're going to get divorced. There's just so much rage and so much pain. And Jeannie said, look, I'll give it to you. It's not going to cost you anything. Read it to her. About 2 weeks later, he called her and said, you're not going to believe this, but it's like we're on our second honeymoon. All the talk of divorce is gone. All the hostility is gone. We're just having a blast together. And Jeannie said to him, well, that's really cool. That's awesome. Congratulations. And when you read it to her, does she read it back to you? And he kind of stammered a little bit. He said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, when you read it to him, does she read it back to you? And he said, she doesn't know I'm reading this. He's going in the back room and reading it to her. And it was a total about facing the relationship. Don't be too quick to judge how it's going to be, because that judgment may govern his behavior if he's unconscious. Be quick to say, oh, my stuff is up, I'm going to do the next layer. My stuff is up, I'm going to do the next layer. I want to shout, I want to scream, I want to clench my fist, I want to clench my jaw. Oh, this is about me. I'm going to do the next level of work. And then I'm going to start to change the unconscious messages to him. And don't be surprised if he jumps in and says, hey, honey, I'm back. I'm back. You want to play? Because you may find that happening. I've seen it over and over and over again. And that's the space I hold for you. And if that doesn't happen, you will still benefit 2,000% because you'll live through it as a human being rather than a mass of trauma and pain and rage and guilt and grief and fear and abandonment. You will heal those issues, and you'll walk out the other side as a human being, as the true active presence of love existing in every cell of your own body, whatever he does. It's not up to him what happens in you unless with your language you turn the power over to him. And it's not up to you what happens with him unless with his language he turns his power over to you and talks about he's only upset because of what you did.
Right. But I want to correct you. He's not unconscious. He's a master healer coming to show him his shit.
Breathe.
I have moments of clarity, like in the way that you're saying, and then, it's like 1/25th of a second. Then I lose it, and more upset comes, and then I get on top of it, and I feel great that it's like, wow, this is Olympic trials here, baby. You're doing
That's
good.
it. 100 times a minute. And you know what? If you want to go to the Olympics of being, you can't send somebody else to the workout room to do your work for you. You have to do it. Can't do it. And 100 times a minute, when you're in your stuff, you're going to restore love and restore love and restore love. And remember who you are and remember who you are and remember who you are until there's nothing in you to take who you are away from you.
Okay.
So notice that you have a whole community. This time, you have a whole family from all over the globe that's listening to this show and spraying love in your direction. Everybody is here for you. The abandonment issue doesn't apply with this family. Everybody's here for you. And we're holding the space. Go for it. Go into it.
I have been. I'm thankful for mute right now. I've been tapping and breathing and crying.
I understand.
My God.
And it's interesting that on the other side of it, oftentimes it's like, what was the big deal about? And the big deal was only about the content, the painful content in my own mind. How I breathe with you.
I know.
And you've also heard me say over the years, and this is just from observation, that the average person who comes into this work, and you've done a significant amount of work before you came into it, but the average person, for them to start to get it, my observation, really start to get it, takes 5 to 10 years. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people don't stick around. But, once you realize what the real work is, what else is there to do but stick around and keep doing it and doing it and doing it until it becomes first nature, and then you just do it automatically.
Right. I hear you. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm committed.
I'm glad you're here.
Yeah. I'm not perfect yet. That's the thing. I know I'm not perfect yet. And
none of us are.
Right, but I guess it's developing compassion to me because right now I'm feeling like the scapegoat or the person to blame. And I know that's me blaming myself.
So let me just ask, now this may be a silly, offhanded, out in left field question, but let me ask how it felt when your power person used to blame you for everything that went wrong.
I wanted to kill myself.
Okay, so I'm going to invite you to do some worksheets and free yourself of that thought. And notice that your power person isn't here to blame you, so you're doing it to yourself. You're just replicating the power person behavior. And that's just another issue to be forgiven. It's kind of a bitch. It always comes back to me, right? It always comes back to me. If I'm in pain, it always comes back to me. And then it comes back to me, and then it comes back to me, and then it comes back to me again. If I'm in pain, I'm the one whose thinking's off base, and I have work to do. And I've got to be able to drop the conversation about everybody else and own what's mine. And, you know, your bloodline, Michelle, none of our bloodlines have probably seen that conversation in 1,000 generations. Where my parents, your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great ever even had the thought that when they were in pain, it was about them. They bought the world. They bought the bullet that said, somebody else is the cause of my pain. And so undoing that habit isn't, it isn't an overnight job. It's a process. It takes time, and we're here to hold the space for you and to support you in processing through it.
Thank you. You're very sweet.
And you're innocent. And you're innocent. And you know what?
There's a lot of evidence that people look to that says I'm not.
Yeah, well, that's theirs. But the evidence they're looking at is in their minds. That's theirs. That's not yours. It's not about you. That's their projection. Your innocence is preserved in your being. All you have to do is reclaim it from the non-being mind that wants to blame everybody else. Your innocence is always fully intact. Yeah, I breathe with you.
Oh, yeah. I think I did three breathing sessions in 12 hours on Saturday.
That's feeling through the layers.
I invited it. It's like just. I mean, there's a part of me observing, going, "Wow, you really know how to create opportunity." I guess you know what I mean. As far as you're talking about yesterday, stirring the sugar. Like, oh my gosh, tsunami. I said that before, and I was always looking at it like thankful that it didn't touch my marriage, and then now it has.
And notice that it hasn't touched your marriage. What it's touched is the part of your mind that you've been able to keep hidden from yourself. But notice how subtly you can slip back into denial and say, yeah, it's about my marriage. It's not about your marriage. Your marriage needs no healing. Your marriage needs no work. You need work. He needs work. The marriage is perfect. The marriage is giving you absolutely every opportunity that you need. If you take advantage of it, then you'll move through those things quickly and easily. If you keep going with this subtle denial that it's about the marriage, or it's about Mark, or it's about, then you just expand the time that it takes to move through it and intensify the pain around it.
That's helpful.
And maybe Dr. Tim has a thought or two to add. Tim, are you there?
Oh, you know what? He was on his cell phone, and so I think he changed to his office phone. So, hi, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing well. My thought was...
Hey there, good sir. Any thoughts?
Well, my thought is that it's kind of like, Michelle, you talk about all the old therapy that you did. And while there is some of that, all the work I did led me to be able to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear when I got to this work. Right. There is that aspect to it. And there's the aspect that I've been using a translation or a key like the hieroglyphics, the Rosetta Stone. I've been using a key that's completely wrong. So I've been trying to translate something from Greek into Czechoslovakia and into the Czech language with a key that's provided from the Icelandic language. And so it doesn't matter how much I apply those tools if my template says, okay, every time you see this letter, it means this. if it's pointing me in the wrong direction, I'm not going to get resolution. And for 45 years of my life, including my doctorate, I was trained, you made me angry, you hurt my feelings, even, talk to patients about how did that make them feel. All of the focus on the external. The key to liberty for me is realizing every time I'm upset about anything, I have to look inside me. I have to quit talking about trying to change, trying to deal with, trying to react to anybody outside of me or anything outside of me when I'm upset. And that key has led me to far greater liberty than I ever had. And it continues to amaze me how much easier my life and relationships get when I apply that key. There is no amount of my saying this person should or shouldn't have done this, that, or the other thing that's ever going to lead me to the way to turn off my internal alarm system, my anger, my fear, my sadness, my pain. That's a wild goose chase. If my internal alarm system's going off, it means the problem's in me. And I had the same response Michael did when he said, your next worksheet has to be on canceling the goal for your husband to do this work with you, because that's one of the biggest traps in relationships is thinking, I'll do this if you do that. And then I'm watching the other person. You know what? They didn't do that, so I'm not going to do this. I just doomed myself to another 20 years in prison if I hold on to that. And in the same moment, if I change that, the next moment I can have a level of liberty I've never imagined. So that would be my input.
Thank you, Tim. I know that you didn't want your divorce. You said that before. And I don't know that, what the future is going to look like for me, but I do agree, and this is going to be a radio show that I listen to over and over, because I agree with what you're saying, even though I haven't practiced it to the extent that it's realized, or that I have a result out there that I prefer.
So we breathe with you and hold the space. We breathe with you and hold the space, and be very, 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 very slow to attempt to figure out what he might be doing. Be just as quick, very, 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 very quick to jump inside yourself and go, and what's the next thing in me that I need to heal so that I can send a different message.
Right. That part is reinforced on the weekend, because Jeannie and Mitzi really emphasize that a lot, over and over and over again. And so you guys saying it again today. Building those brain cells, because there's a difference, obviously, intellectually knowing something and then feeling it in your body, like a true knowing.
It's a process.
In the chat room, Camille says, wow, this discussion is hitting home runs all the way to France. So grateful. The energy is raised here. And then Donna says, this is good for me as well. I like this dialogue. Thank you, Michelle. And then Camille, thanks, Michelle, for your willingness to be so vulnerable. Thanks, Michael, for your loving focus. We'll listen to this many, many times. And then Donna,
I got an email from Camille last week, and she was sharing that she had the insight. She's been having some challenges, which I don't think I'm telling you out of school. She's been sharing it on the show, but she sent me an email, or it was a text, I think, that said she realized that Robert, her significant other's initials are RK. She was talking about Ruka. His initials are RK, and her initials are CBM. I was so hilarious, Camille, when you shared that. Yes, CBM. There we go. Carbon-based memory. Moving through it. And, when you realize that what we're doing is emptying out the insanity of 1,000 generations, it's just, I can't say it often enough. When do you suppose was the last time that anybody, and as Kim just said, I was trained in grad school. How did that make you feel? Like, when did anybody on the planet ever go, nothing can make me feel, it comes from inside of me? You're the first person you may be one out of 5,000 people that have actually had the consciousness to ask that question and start to open this door. You're like one of the early adopters. And the process of integrating it is very intense. But it works.
I think it works too. And I'm committed.
And I promise that you'll have a far better chance of creating a wondrous 5H relationship with Mark if you spray nothing but love in his direction, that you've resolved everything that's less than that in you. And you'll have a far better chance of living to a ripe, healthy, happy old age, or maybe for eternity, if you do that for yourself. It'll be the greatest gift you've ever given yourself and given to the world. Powerful line in the Course in Miracles. Millions yet unborn will benefit from the work you do. Go find me anybody in the last 10 centuries that has had the insight that my rage, my fear, my hate, my vengeance, my grief, my gossip, my slander, my condemnation, my viciousness comes from anywhere but inside of me. Find me a person who can show me that. You won't find it. It'll all be about, when that political leader did this, they enraged me, and when that spouse did this, and when my boss did that, and when my next-door neighbor did that, boy, they really, it's a new idea on planet Earth. And it's one that takes hold slowly when you realize that in our genes is a record of all of the generations that believe the exact opposite.
So I have something to add, Michelle, when you were talking about how long you've been working.
Yes.
It fired the brain cells for me of a time when I had an interaction. My ex-wife showed up in my office, and my interpretation of events was that she walked in unannounced, without permission, sat down in my office, and was just, boldly there to just throw it in my face that she could do whatever she wanted to do. And so this blessedly happened on a Tuesday. So later that night I was in the support group, and I hijacked the group and said, I have to do a worksheet. And so I was halfway through the worksheet, and I saw something that just rocked perceptions dramatically. And so then I looked back at what had happened earlier in the afternoon, and I was in tears and shocked. I couldn't believe that I looked at that same set of data points 4 hours earlier and thought she was so horrible. And now I'm there in the support group. I'm halfway through the worksheet, and I get the insight that I was the one being the jerk. So we finished that worksheet, and somebody in the group who was there for maybe his first or second group meeting was talking about, how long do you think it'll, get me to get to that point? Can I, how many worksheets would I have to do to get there? And I just started laughing, and he said, seemingly upset that I was laughing. He said, what are you laughing about? And I said, well, I'm chuckling because I've been out of that house, and I've been working on it with all kinds of different tools for over 9 years. And I still had that level of distortion of perception and blaming her for my upset. And I'd probably been doing the worksheet process and the groups for 8 years at that point. So it isn't a quick fix, and it isn't, as Michael often says, Dr. Feelgood, and yet it is entirely possible with these tools for me to gain a new level of liberty each day compared to what I had the previous day, and that's my goal. I'm not looking at any end game. I'm not, people keep talking about when can I be done with this issue. And my point is, how can I deal with what's up in me right now and get back to a loving state? That's my goal.
I take some comfort in that.
In the Eastern Orthodox tradition, the religious traditions of the Eastern Orthodox, the whole idea, as opposed to the way theology thinks of it in the West here, the whole idea was incarnation. Was to incarnate in your body as a human being. So the only valid question is, what's the next piece of work that I need to do to incarnate more fully in this body, in this world, at this time? That's really the only valid question. The rest of it is all mental masturbation.
You like that, do you, Michael?
What's that?
I actually said that to Jeannie yesterday about.
Oh, really? I wasn't aware of it.
Oh my gosh! I'll send you the text thread. It's cute because I exactly said that same thing.
That's hilarious.
It is. It isn't a common. I appreciate you guys so much, but I also know that we got a couple minutes left for any of these other people with a hand up.
Let's go for it. Let's say hello.
All right. So 781, you're first. Do we have callers?
Hi, this is Ron from Massachusetts.
Hey, we haven't heard your voice for a while. Papa, how are you doing, and how's the new baby?
The new baby is so beautiful, it's overwhelming. Well, I'll cancel that thought. The baby is beautiful. As beautiful as he's supposed to be.
Sweet.
Yeah, just so sweet. And I'm calling because I want in on this energy. It's Michelle, right?
Yes,
Yes.
I'm just so this call is just such a home run. I can't wait to download it and have it on my computer for my own benefit. And as you often say, Michael, love tends to bring up anything unlike itself, and we have a bundle of joy here in our home, and he's given me an opportunity to love and to have the amplitude of the wave go out and resonate all kinds of stuff with me. And I was particularly up against it today. And I dialed in. I was watching your video and reading along with my transcription of your video on the treadmill, and I called, and it became 1 o'clock, so I dialed into the show. And I heard this magnificent call. And I was having a dynamic with my power person, my father, where I was 100% sure what state he was in. And instead of acting out of that false belief of mine, I kept walking and listening and reading. And before long, while I was listening to the call and you and Michelle talking, my father sent me these loving texts revealing that wasn't the state that I had him in, wasn't the state he was in at all. That I was just reinvigorating in my own world, stuff I had experienced, many years previous, and it wasn't happening for him today. It was just something I was doing, and I'm so grateful that I was listening to the call and not behaving out of that insanity, and I get to heal.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Tim's
congratulations.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Tim's input about not when I got my doctorate was spot on for me too. And your input was so right on, Michael, too, about when you said from my own experience, and you talked about tightening your jaw. I've been noticing lately my jaw goes tight all the time, below the level of my consciousness. Not all the time, but very often. And just learning to observe that, instructs me that I've got more work to do. And there was another piece that you brought up that I'm grasping for it. About just how intense it is. I've been doing this work now for about 19 years, and other work before that. But I met you 19 years ago, give or take a few months, Michael, and I've been really aggressive about my process and doing worksheets and so forth. And I'm struck by how, when you were sharing, I was just nodding my head like, yeah, it gets so intense. It does appear real. The cultural hypnosis, the intensity that I gin up in my own mind, it looks real, and these tools are just so important. And being able to tap into the energy of this call and the videos was very, very on track for me today. So, thank you. I thought it's really. I wanted to be on this call. I wanted my voice on this call because it's an honor to be be on it.
Well, delighted and honored to have you part of it, and we hold the space for your family. And another interesting point that you resonate as you're talking, Ron, is that we populate a whole world between our ears. We live with bodies that have all kinds of attributes that we're in denial of, and we place those bodies in the pictures inside of our minds. Those pictures do not go outside of us. They are internal conditions that reflect internal conditions. And when I recognize that whole population, that I blame this one for my anger and that one for my sadness and this one for my rage and that one for this and this one for my poverty and that one, that's all an inside job. And forgiveness is about removing those so that we can actually energetically start to meet the actual beings that are there, that I can meet my newborn as human being is phenomenal. That I can meet somebody that I've been hanging out with for 25 years and making them responsible for my stuff is a whole level beyond that.
Awesome. I'm glad you referenced the course too, because when I think about the time it takes, and you referenced the course, you also referenced how many people in the last 10 centuries. 10 centuries is a long time, and the course came in the 70s, and so if we kind of start at that point of the course when some of these brain cells were starting to be more aggressive, or AA or wherever you want to start, but when some of these brain cells were being deeply sewn into the culture again, it hasn't been very long.
It's going to cut us off in a few seconds, Ron.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Have the best year yet of your eternal life. An awesome